So, I recently called Ravine one of the most hated maps in the game, and in that video I said that we were going to make a deeper dive into what makes a map good or bad, and also make a tier list of every map in the game. And also we're going to have a poll, so you get to vote on your favorite maps. Stick around. Starting with the beginner maps, Monkey Meadow is a classic. The graphics really reminds you of the old school Bloons tower defense games. There's really no other map in the game that brings out this feeling to the same degree as this map does. The graphics is clean and simple, and while the map is easy, it still made a lot of people struggle with the Elite Vortex, since the track pretty much forces players to center their towers, causing them to be stunned by the boss. Overall, I would rate this map a clear A. Next is Alpine Run. This map also has very clean graphics and a very simple track design. This is a decent beginner map that offers some map variety, but doesn't serve much other purposes than that. I feel like there's nothing unique that the map offers, but it's still a decent map. C tier. Candy Falls is what I would call a fun map. It offers most of what you need to have fun and use all the towers in a satisfying way. It has long, fairly straight lines, perfect for towers like the Mad, and at the same time it also has loops, perfect for area of effect towers like the Tack Shooter. It also has colorful and clean graphical design and has a lot of water for every tower in the game to be placed. A tier. Carved. C tier. Cubism is a much loved map that I would also consider a fun map, good for most towers. Bonus points for making use of so many colors, making the map very colorful without making it look messy. It's still clean and pleasing to look at. Easy A tier. For most of the beginner maps, there's not a lot of sight blockers or ways to interact with the maps, giving the easier maps an advantage in terms of getting good ranks, because implementing sight blockers and ways to interact with the map can often affect the gameplay negatively unless you do it right, as we will see when we get to the harder maps. End of the Road. Very clean and simple design, both in terms of graphics and the track routes. I feel like this map stands out a bit from the rest of the beginner maps, probably because it might be the shortest of them. This map does have a few cacti as sight blockers, although they don't get in the way much, but I've seen them used cleverly in challenges. Overall, I like the map. B tier. 4 Circles. I don't know about you, but I feel like this map is messy even though it really isn't. The graphics is clean, so it must be the track route. Overlapping itself many times causes this map to feel messy, unlike other maps like Resort that somehow manages to pull off track overlapping without making the map feel messy at all. I'm putting this one in D tier. No good, no good. Frozen Over. Pretty good. C tier. Hedge. Now this map has a few sight blockers, and they don't take away from the map or make it feel annoying in any way. They blend in and make the map better. They also add to the challenge and makes the map more fun, while making it very good for towers like the Ultra Juggernaut. B tier. Let's go ahead and rank a couple of the maps that I don't have too much to say about. In the Loop, C tier. Lotus Island, B tier. Skates, C tier. The Cabin, well, this one is just awful in my opinion. There's nothing fun or satisfying about it, yet it's not very challenging, and the graphics is not too pleasing either. This one gets an F. Park Path, B. Tree Stump, Town Center, Winter Park all feel like classic Bloon maps, but it's still just a D from me. Scrapyard, one of the newer maps in the game. This one actually has a longer track than Logs, and has a lot of sight blockers, and you can interact with the map with the Bloon Crusher. So this map stands out a bit. It can be very useful for creating challenges due to the Bloon Crusher, and I feel like this may be a fun map for new players to do their first chimps runs on. But for me, I'm not a huge fan of the map and I don't do a lot of challenges, but I'm still giving the map a B tier for originality. 123 is also a very original map, since the placements give different buffs and obstacles disappear as the rounds passes. This allows for a lot of fun challenges, giving this map an instant A tier, despite that I'm not a huge fan of the map visually. Another new map is Middle of the Road, and in this one I don't really see much of anything. No beautiful graphics, no fun, no originality. The map really it doesn't have much going for it. So F. The last two maps in the beginner category is Resort and Logs. Logs get an instant A tier because the map is amazing for beginners, super late game and testing, and thus is one of the most played maps in the game. Resort also gets an A, but I'm putting this one slightly ahead of Logs because of its awesome graphics. Although I'm not bothering to rank them internally within each rank, but just know that Resort is getting a better score from me. Now on to intermediate difficulty. Here we start seeing some new stuff. Balance is a fantastic map. Most of the buildable space is outside of the whatever this is, and thus is only useful for a few tower types. In the center, you don't have a lot of space, so you need to consider what you place carefully. This map has a very clean, symmetric design, both in terms of the graphics and the track routes, and allows for both land and water towers, and really makes towers like the TAC, Soda, Mordor and Juggernaut shine. An A tier from me. Bazaar? Ugh. And Bloonarius Prime follows suit. My reasoning, you ask? Well, they suck, that's why. Adora's Temple. Pretty original and also has some pretty cool hidden secrets. But the map just feels too messy. Not in terms of the graphical design, but with all the tracks and how they overlap, I'm putting this as a D tier. Shoots. Clean design, but just too boring. I think there's not too much point to the 2 removable statues, and there's not too much original with the map. I feel like the graphical design was nice, and perhaps with some changes to the track and water positions, this could have ranked much higher, but sadly I'm just giving it a D. Covered Garden. Wow, this one got forgotten pretty quick, didn't it? The map had a really good idea going, with only one part of the map being accessible at a time, but I feel like both the graphical design and the track route failed to live up to the idea. The map looks too cluttered with all the flowers and fountains and the window panes. I feel like you could have achieved the same concept in a way that was much more visually appealing. So while the idea was good and it could have ranked very high, I'm just putting it in the D tier. And the only reason it's not in the F tier is because the idea was good. Cracked, Downstream, Haunted, Firing Range, Carts and Darts, and Streambed all get B tier for reasons. Rake, Moon Landing, Quarry, Spring Spring, Encrypted, and Quiet Street all get C tier. And the last intermediate map, Spice Islands, get an A for being a very clean map with opportunity for many challenges and for being like the only map that's consisting mostly of water. Now onto the advanced maps. Another Brick gets a B for the sheer simplicity of this advanced map. It's like the new intern did it and tried to put in as little work as possible, and yet somehow it turned out pretty well. Well done. Cargo is pretty meh, but I'm still giving it a C tier along with X Factor, Off the Coast, and Underground. All pretty meh. Next up is Cornfield. Now this hits the spot. Easy A tier, S tier. Both the track route and the graphical design is very simple and clean. You can interact with the map by removing the corn, allowing you to place towers in the respective areas. And since the map starts with almost the whole map covered, this allows for a lot of awesome challenges. And also there's these hidden spots, which is a cool addition. Legendary map, I say. Next up is Geared, and this one is nothing to scoff at either. This one has a really cool mechanic that spins the entire buildable space every round. Very original, and also the design is very cool looking, and the track route is very simple. Easy A tier advanced map. High Finance. This is one of those maps I think I will like once I put more time into it. At first I thought it felt a bit too cluttered, but when I looked at it again a bit more closely, it's not that bad, and this map can probably provide some pretty fun challenges. I do like the idea of having a lot of small places to put towers, and most of which you have to build by paying money for first, forcing you to think a lot about what towers you place where. I'm thinking I'm gonna give this one a B. Mesa and Pat's Pond. Very boring and not the most pleasing to the eye in my opinion. In the bin they go. Midnight Mansion. Now this one I will eventually try an easy mode late game on, because this map really limits not only the buildable space but also your visibility. And the map succeeds in this without looking too cluttered, and it's also very colorful, has a cool design, and you can interact with the map by removing objects, and its fire, blocking the line of sight, switches every round. I've not played this map much, but I'm thinking I'm gonna give it an A- for standing out in a lot of ways. Peninsula and Spillway both get an A for being very simple and clean, yet managing to provide an advanced challenge for the players. Sunken Columns I haven't spent any time on either, but after looking at it again, it may offer some decent challenges, so I'm giving it a C. So now we have reached the expert maps. Starting with the newest map, Dark Dungeons. I find the map to be perhaps a bit more limiting in what towers you can use than other maps. Now this can be viewed in both a positive and negative light. The design is pretty cool and offers ways to interact with the map, but personally I'm a bigger fan of other experts maps, so I'm only giving it a C, but it's a good C tier, it's a decent map. Muddy Puddles and Bloody Puddles. Both are great, offer a tough challenge despite being very straightforward in terms of their track design. A tier. Flooded Valley gets a B from me, due to it being the only expert map with mostly water, and also because of it having a very simple design and allowing you to create a lot of cool challenges because of the difference in height on the land and water side, and also because you can interact with the map flooding the whole valley. Very nice. Quad has a nice symmetric visual design, but once again, I don't like the way the tracks overlap, causing me to feel unsure if I'm about to lose or not, so I'm pushing this one down to D tier. Ravine. This one I'm sending to D tier as well. I'm having a hard time figuring out why though. The map is visually pretty okay, and once you've played the map you won't really be confused with the tracks anymore. And the way the tracks overlap doesn't really prevent you from seeing if you're about to lose or not either. So why am I putting this in D tier? I don't really know, but thankfully I don't need to explain myself. This is no democracy, this is Macken's YouTube channel Workshop. Now this one really aimed for the stars by implementing 2 new ways to interact with the map. You can slow down all balloons with one machine and alter the track itself with the other. Some pretty cool ideas. This map does allow for some cool challenges, but it discourages late game players because of you needing to use the machines all the time, which can get pretty annoying. And the map itself feels irritating in a way. I think it's because of all the little spread out sight blockers like the workbenches. I feel like the map tried a bit too much at once. Just the machine altering the track would have been enough, and I would have changed the sight blockers to perhaps making a few less of them but perhaps bigger ones. I'm giving this map a C tier. Ouch is an extremely simple map in its design, yet very tough. Good job intern, A tier. Dark Castle gets an A because of its short and simple track route and good visual design, allowing for some interesting challenges. Sanctuary. This map is like geared on steroids. Every buildable space moves every round, but this time you got several tracks, worse places to put your towers, and while you do have access to water, you won't exactly drown in it if you know what I mean. This map can also produce a lot of different, tough and interesting challenges. Another strong A tier. And lastly, we have Infernal. This map has beautiful graphics and very simple track design despite having multiple tracks. It challenges you by limiting the amount of towers you can place, but not what towers you can place. Like the previous map, this one has also led to a lot of really fun challenges, and thus this map is S tier. Now let's find out what all of you think. In the description below there is 2 straw polls where you get to vote on the top 5 best and worst maps, and in a future video we'll take a look at the results. I was planning on talking a bit more about what makes a map good in this video, but the tier making took a bit longer than expected even though I made it pretty quick, so I think I'll save most of that for the next video where we take a look at the results of your votes. So leave your vote, link in the description, leave your thumbs up, not a democracy, and I will see you in the next video. Later.